Hi everybody. Today I want to talk about Star Ocean 5. As you all know, we have had an influx of just a lot of different videos concerning the game, and we actually have someone who is translating these videos that are in Japanese to English. And I want to take the time to thank this person. His screen name is the legendary Zoltan, and he literally goes into the nooks and crannies of the video and gives us, the information that we all want to hear, kind of like all of the details of the game that give it that life that we all search for when we play Star Ocean. And I suggest you check them out as well, since they have so much information and kind of provide a good backbone to the game in the series, and how the game has changed, and that is before we even have anything in English. So I want to go over a few things. The things that I want to go over today, I want to go through a list of staples, and what I mean by staples is those things that we wish would have stayed with the game, and some of them have stayed with the game, series after series, or uh, you know part one from part two to part three to part four. Um, an example of that would be the battle system. The battle system, has been consistent with pretty much all of the games that we've played, the ones available on the console at least. And I would like to talk about all of the things that should have been staples and that are staples as well, or what could be staples in the future. I thought these were important concepts that are, necessary to have a great game, and I just wanted to go through them quickly. I want to point one out specifically, which I have no idea why they have taken it out of the series, and that is the optional characters. It's kind of like they weeded it out slowly, and that's no fun. I mean, Star Ocean 1 had it, Star Ocean 2 had it, Star Ocean 3 had it, Star Ocean 4 kind of had it, and Star Ocean 5, it's just, it's not even there from what we can see in these videos. And that's kind of why I'm making this video today, because it's important to continue to, make great games, but keeping the important parts of the game, and kind of letting go of those things that the fans are not asking for. And I'm sure optional characters is something that all the fans ask for, despite how many characters you have using at the same time. These are things that are important. They provide options to the gamer, to kind of pick and choose in the beginning, and then compare and contrast later on, and even sometimes, and it will be even more preferable to not even have to pick and choose, or have to set one aside. Instead, just, having to be able to collect as many characters as you can in one run through, without really having to leave anybody behind, like you had to do in Star Ocean 2. And that's just one of the things that I thought should have been stapled onto the series, but didn't stick from what we can see. Star Ocean 5 looks like it has just the set amount of characters, and it's a little bit kind of upsetting, the fact that there is not other characters that you can switch from. I really hope they surprise us, which the chances do seem slim, but I guess that's part of what hope is anyway. But the next thing I'd like to continue talking about is private actions, and private actions have been a staple since the beginning. They kind of swayed a different direction on Star Ocean 3, where there was not something that you initiated by before entering a town. It kind of was, you were always in private action mode when you entered a town, and you kind of just found a party member and spoke to them, and something would happen if a private action was available. Star Ocean 4 was very similar, and Star Ocean 5 looks like it may be like that too. I prefer the actual way that Star Ocean 2 had it, which it could be the way that Star Ocean 5 has it. Star Ocean 5, you can see in the screenshots and in the gameplay that there's moments where the whole team follows you, and then there's moments when the team isn't following you, so you can probably select when the team follows you and when they don't in Star Ocean 5, and I do hope it's that way. Um, and I talked about this in a previous video about enhanced AI. You know, the more uh, IT intelligent or AI intelligent the actual characters are, the better the experience. Kind of like, finding new strategies. It does probably take a lot of programming and understanding to get that to work, but that is something that needs to be always enhanced through every new game that we get. And I'm sure it is enhanced as, time goes along. And, I'm sure they can do great jobs, and, I really hope that they do it this time around where we can set, the best moves for the characters and they use it in the best course of action. Um, I've talked about this as well, which is the mage rebalances. Mage rebalances is so important, and they started doing it on number 3. And in Star Ocean 3, you saw the difference in the magic and how useful it started to become, specifically with Sophia, since Sophia had a lot of good things going for her in Star Ocean 3. Star Ocean 4 was another improvement, however, didn't quite do it as much as Star Ocean 3, and I wish they would have, because there was so much potential in a lot of the moves. That Mayuria had, for example, Divine Wave, which was supposed to be this fantastic move since Star Ocean 2. Instead, they kind of, dumbed it down to one hit, which was kind of like, there was so many other moves that were much better than that. And, in Star Ocean 2, Divine Wave, when Indalecio used it, was amazing and fantastic. I mean, he literally, crowd clearing was the best crowd clearing move that I've ever seen in any game. Divine Wave was so powerful that, you had to watch out with it and make sure that your character had enough agility to be able to block all the hits, which were a lot. Um, skills are important. Skills are something that uh, I thought would be staples, and by skills, they kind of had it in Star Ocean 3 with stun and all these other good stuff, fear, aerial. They kind of put moves that allowed you to hit aerial um, enemies. Star Ocean 2 had it with their skill system that you would add skill points to it with Gale and Motormouth, and those were all great. And you would be able to see in Star Ocean 2 how many times the skill was being used, and you would see it every time it was used on the sidebar, and it'll tell you how many you did in a row, which I thought was pretty good. And it all came with like little noises and little clinks, which I thought was pretty neat, and something that they could have done. With the rest of the game, but they kind of dumbed it down as well, kind of not really focusing on that. And I thought that was important, and they should have remained through 3 and 4 amongst whatever it is that they added on to it. I mean, the general idea is to grow upon what is already there, keeping the stuff the fans want to keep, and letting go of the things the fans don't want to keep. But instead, they're kind of like picking and choosing from a catalog of things that are similar but not don't necessarily serve the same function. And I think that's something that the developers would need to understand if they don't already understand it. Perhaps it's their way of conducting business, but that would be a bummer for the fans out there who really want to see the best game possible as far as Star Ocean is concerned. I mean, we want to see the best features always available in a new game. There's no desire for it to be on the contrary. That is it's kind of difficult to have to play the game or a new game and then have to worry about the fact that it didn't have a feature that was in a prior one, because that feature was so useful. And that's a general idea of this video, kind of to put that out there, that the best features are the ones that we want, and the ones that we want to see come back. We don't want to see kind of like a mixed bag of features. No, we want to see all the great features that Star Ocean has been known for. And a good feature, which it's pretty basic, but it's very important, is the targeting where you can select your target. Star Ocean 3 kind of had like, I mean, all of them were pretty easy, but they don't really promote it, and these are things that you have to promote because some people would just go playing the game with an AI targeting the enemies. Star Ocean 4 synthesis, item creation. I mean, the item creation in Star Ocean 4 I think was the most organized one. It was, it had recipes where you can, just go ahead and gather the items and generate the actual item that you want. There was no random number generator generating items for you. I remember I would go weeks trying to get Hyper Launcher for Opera in part two, and Mujing Super being, I got it for the very first time nearly 3 years after playing, and I played a lot of hours of Star Ocean 2, and it wasn't until like the third year that I had the game that I was actually able to obtain Mujing Super Beam. And that's why I think that this recipe would be a great idea. The recipes were amazing. They did what, you gathered everything you needed, and then you were able to get it. Now, perhaps if they wanted to increase the difficulty, instead of putting a random number generator to do that, perhaps make the items a little bit more difficult to obtain to create the item you're trying to make. That would make more sense than having a random number generator generating items, which could take, it could be from one day to the next, or it could take a very long time. And I think that this is Star Ocean 4 really had it understood, and Star Ocean 4 really had a grasp on that. Multiple endings is something that's very important. Star Ocean 2 had it. Star Ocean 2 had multiple endings. They marketed those endings, making sure that the public knew that this game has a lot of different ways that you can end the game. And I think it sold it because of that. I mean, a lot of this was important, and it's kind of more difficult now that there's 7 characters, 8 characters, however it may be. However, I will still say that the multiple endings are kind of should be a staple, because they have a private action system going for them, and the private action system deals with the emotions in order to get these endings. I mean, they work hand in hand. You can't separate one from another, because then that would just generate a much more kind of like kind of, you can't independencies those two. They're kind of, they kind of go together. They go hand in hand with one another. The world map, Star Ocean 3 had very, very tedious world map where you had to run from one point to another. There was no faster way of transportation, and you had to do this every single time you wanted to get to one town across the map. The world map, I think, is necessary, along with the flying, flying mechanism, or a bunny, like they did in Star Ocean 2 and Star Ocean 4. Star Ocean 3 didn't do that, and I think that should have been a staple from the beginning. All of the Star Oceans had it except this one, and I think they should continue with it, and a faster mode of transportation. The flying transportation was fantastic. I don't know why they got rid of it. I mean, it should be a staple, in fact, in all RPGs. Carrying over equipment. None of the Star Oceans had this, but this is something that a lot of fans asked for, and I asked for too. And you finish the game, you play the game, you finish it, however much hours it takes, you have now a set of armor and weapons that you want to keep and bring on to your next playthrough, but you can't, because you got to play a brand new game. I think there should be an option where you're able to you can carry over your weapons and carry them over to the new place and into the new game, and then use them. I mean, that's a great idea. I mean, I don't know why they're not allowing that. These are things that they have to consider and should be a staple in many games. I mean, people will be like, oh, but it's kind of like cheating and this and that. And it's like, yeah, but who cares? We've already beat the game. We should be able to do whatever we want after we beat the game. I mean, that's just plain and simple as that. Ultimate damage. This is something that it really, really, grinded my gears in Star Ocean 4. I literally spent so much time creating these awesome weapons, and I then started to, do a decent amount of damage, and then I put in so much time to, get, the best attack for a particular member of the party, and when I did all of that, nothing. It didn't increase by one bit, and that's because they had a damage cap on majority of the party members, and that right there kind of threw me off. I was not having it. I was kind of just in a sense of like, I just stopped playing the game after I beat it on, on its hardest difficulty. It really, took away from the replay factor, which is something that, I kind of look forward to, because that's how Star Ocean 2 prepared me. I mean, Star Ocean 2 went ahead and, pretty much, made it so the replay value, I can have as much as I want of it. In fact, I haven't, finished playing, and in fact, I continue to play to this day because it just has so much of that factor. And one of those factors is being able to customize your character with certain weapons and stuff that allow for, optimum damage or, maximum damage, and it's something that Star Ocean 4 kind of didn't focus on, which kind of, I just stopped playing it for that reason. Um, Rush mode. Now, rush mode isn't something that I thought was going to be a staple, but I do think the concept should be a staple. It should be something that we can call upon in battle to increase our skills, to allow us to, do better in battle. Additionally, considering that rush mode is, something that in Star Ocean 4 at least, something that was decreasing in the gauge. Basically, your rush gauge would decrease as time went on, but you were able to recover it in some instances. And if you were to strategize and tweak your strategy in fighting, you could have made a huge rush, a rush mode, and increase the amount of time you stayed in rush, as opposed to, kind of, you know, um, losing it, like, because it only lasts a certain amount of time. There were certain things you could do to increase the amount of time you stayed in rush, and that was kind of entertaining. Once I saw that, I thought that they could, grow on that and make it, just as good in the next installment as they could in the one in Star Ocean 4. OTG attacks, I think, would be a good thing for battle. And OTG attacks, we saw them with